Welcome to the Can Innovate podcast, the first ever podcast designed to showcase Canadian thought leadership. These innovators share industry insights, entrepreneurial best practices, lessons learned, and other tips that we can incorporate right into our lives, our careers, and our businesses. So let's get inspired. Hey, innovators, I can't believe that this is actually my 1-year anniversary with the podcast. I am actually kind of a little flabbergasted that I have actually managed to do it for an entire year and I haven't lost steam yet. I actually am getting more excited. But what I thought I'd do that was a little bit different was I thought I'd get one of my dearest friends, Julie Shum, to interview me with a bunch of questions that she's come up with because she has been with me throughout the entire thing. In fact, including when I was trying to actually put it all together. So she saw me go through the imposter syndrome. She saw me go through everything that of my self-doubt, trying to figure out who to connect with, how to get things launched. She even did my initial website to help me get things going. Like, she has been instrumental in so many things. And honestly, you can't do anything, as you've heard from all of these different innovators and entrepreneurs out there, without a really strong support system. And that is exactly who Julie is to me. So welcome, Julie. Thank you so much for taking your time to do this.
Oh my gosh, Sapna, oh my God. I don't even know where to start. I'm lost for words with that intro. I'm so honored to be on your podcast and interviewing you this time, just discovering what your journey's been like over this year. And first off, I want to say congratulations on your first anniversary. It's incredible.
I can't believe that we're at this point because I still remember me submitting the request to Apple thinking I've got 3 days or 4 days before it approves. And then it was instantaneously approved like 10 minutes later. And I'm like, oh, no, shoot, what have I done? Now what? Because I couldn't take it back. I was old. And now I'm like, oh, wow, it's been a year and we've actually produced episode after episode. And I can't believe it. So yes, no, but congratulations to you too. And thank you seriously so much for all of your support and kindness and help. And, and you've been connecting me with such great innovators and that you've come across. And I love that. So thank you for that too.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Always here for you. And it's been so exciting to be on your journey with you because, like, as you said, I've been there for your ups and downs and, I've learned a lot from you as well in your journey. And just, it's so inspiring. And I hope that it's very inspiring for all your guests as well as, your listeners. I know you're doing this for yourself, but also for your listeners. And I really hope they find value in your podcast. I know I do, of course, and not just because I'm biased, but
you are a little biased. That's true.
But it's been fun nominating guests for you and, who I get to meet on my journey and bring them forth for your podcast. So I'm glad you've made some great connections.
You've been instrumental. I love it. All right. Ask your burning questions. I think I'm ready for whatever ball you throw me.
So, you explained to people that you started this podcast because you're trying to prove your mentor wrong. So it's been a year. So do you think you've done that? And, does that continue to be your motivation as you keep going into your second year?
Good question. I definitely think I've proved my original thesis that I definitely proved my mentor wrong, that there is a lot of Canadian innovation happening on the landscape. I think we've definitely done that. But there's so much more innovation that's actually happening and thought leadership that's happening on the Canadian soil. And it's just crazy. And I love when we go out and people say, I didn't know that company was Canadian. I didn't know that company was Canadian. I love when I hear that feedback that we kind of created some awareness of some really great Canadian thought leaders and insights out there. So yeah, my motivation now is really about creating that awareness about what is happening on the Canadian landscape? Like, who's doing what? Are these companies Canadian? And so we can start to really support a lot more of them out there. So yeah, I get inspired every chance I get to sit with somebody because it's amazing of their journey and the things that they've had to really overcome in order to really bring this to light. And that'd be the same for any company around the world. But, in Canada, we've got some other kind of regulatory things that they kind of have to go over. And I think it's just brilliant. So that's going to be my continued motivation, is truly helping continue to bring that awareness of what is Canadian out there.
And I'm so proud to be a Canadian along with you as well. So to bring these and showcase these individuals or companies as we keep going into, like I said, year 2. Who in the first year would you say surprised you the most in being a Canadian innovator?
Oh my gosh, what a doozy of a question. I mean, there's so many to pick from. Okay, Dr. Ann Cavoukian for sure, because her privacy and her take on privacy and her passion just makes me more passionate about securing our privacy. Like even a couple of clients, I even stopped and asked them about their privacy, what they're thinking about, and how do they purge data and stuff like that, and how do they maintain it, and so on. It's, I mean, she's really an eye-opener, and, you know, she's just amazing. But then, you know, I had Ali Fathi on there from MindBridge AI, and he was sharing his secret sauce, and he's been a serial entrepreneur, and I'm talking about bringing how many companies to light and selling them for like billions of dollars that he's brought into the economy. And he tells us that his secret sauce was his wife of his success, you know. And then you get someone like Ariel, and I mean, we've had Ariel twice, and she's so amazing from Muse. You know, we talk about the value of meditation, and she blows my mind. And then we'd have another masterclass about changing our mindset and with really tactical things. And then that one got me excited. But then, you know, we had like a rocket scientist from actually NASA that's also a filmmaker and a serial entrepreneur. And my brain gets boggled. I'm like, when people have DNA like that, like what are they up to? You just get so much more curious about them as an individual. So that was Gerald Hemingway, and he just came out with all the Smarter Tone stuff, and it's just really cool. And, you know, and then when I found out this book that I've actually been championing for multiple years by Michael Bungay, The Coaching Habit, and I found out he's Canadian, it blew my mind. You know, his 7 questions have literally changed a lot of the things that I do. So I can't say there's been just one. There's just been a multitude of different facets that just kind of, really blow my mind.
Great. Oh my gosh. And I know I picked up on, you know, I'm a fan of your podcast, and I picked up on so many of these tips and tricks. And, you know, how, I guess for you, did you apply any of these tips and tricks and insights that you got from your guests?
I did. I mean, obviously, every time they come up with something, I'm like, oh, wow, that's awesome. Like, they really do share all their best practices. Like, I think the biggest one is that, you know, one, you can't do things alone. So, you know, and I think that's really huge, because I forget that we don't have a support system. Because even as I am actually launching my other businesses and stuff like that, you know, it gets really lonely, and you don't have people to talk to and to bounce off ideas. That's kind of a safe space, or they've been there, done that. And so their gotcha moments really get me. You know, I love their one episode where we're talking about call to actions. And, you know, one of the guys was actually talking about how having multiple different lead pages to test out your target audience is a really great way. And you're like, wow, that's a really cool, you know, idea, insight that I had not seen. And I'm like, oh, and I actually applied it, and it really helped to figure out a little bit more about who is actually interested in certain content and how I can reach them and so on. So there's a lot of amazing things, and a lot of it comes back from marketing, you know. And then they talk about networking. Networking is huge in this space, but making networking count. They have given so much insights and value from there. Like, you know, one of them was telling us, Andre from Carrot Wars was telling us about he never eats lunch alone. And he's been a marketeer for I don't know how many decades. And he continues never to have lunch alone. And his reason behind it is not just about connecting with people. It's also about learning different perspectives and what's going on in the world that he didn't hear about, and almost having eyes at the back of his head. And I was like, wow, that is amazing. So I tend to go out more often than I used to go out, just to continue that. So yeah, there's just a lot of tips that I've picked up.
That's amazing. And that reminds me, you and I have to do lunch sometime soon. Just to keep that momentum on that tip.
I love it. I love it.
And, you know, with all of this learning, I know you're evolving your podcast, and it's amazing how, you know, I've seen it grow, and it's no longer a baby, it's growing into its toddler years. And where do you think that the direction of your podcast is taking you?
So basically, this is a good one, because a couple of things. I mean, I changed over to not just have innovators that are out there to talk about their journey, but also to start offering those masterclasses, which is a deep dive into some of those best practices. Because the typical management consultant in me, right? Like you learn about, you hear a tip and you're like, wow, that's awesome. But no one tells you how to do it. So then I've been reaching out to them to learn how to do these things, because many of us have a side hustle somewhere, right? Like, or want to have a side hustle, and we don't realize how easy it really is to actually do certain things. And for example, podcasting, I had no clue how easy it was to start it. And we have our own fears and motivations behind it. But I think the biggest thing is that what's coming up is we're going to be really starting to really focus a lot more on tactical things, but really offering really more value. So for example, we're going to have more cheat sheets out there so people can do things, more workshops, more of those types of activities. I mean, things that I used to do with corporations, I'm starting to see that how valuable it is for just individuals to get the same access to those things. And I want to make it really user friendly. So for example, somebody had sent me an email saying, how do you do a postmortem? And I'm like, what do you mean? And I explained to them about, there's lessons learned and after action review and stuff like that. So anyways, I've developed a sheet for them, because honestly, I use it all the time. Like, that's for every corporation that I use, I do that. Or how some of the tactics that I had used to kind of get over my own imposter syndrome itself, like some of the things that I did to kind of figure out, feel good about myself. What did I use? So I'm developing all those things, and you're going to start seeing a lot more of those cheat sheets and all those, relevant things, and they're all going to be free, because I totally believe that education and awareness should be as, free and accessible to all as much as possible. So you're going to see a lot more of that.
I can't wait. And I tell you every week, I'm like, I'm driving and I'm listening to you on the way home, and then as I commute or on the way to work, you're my company, and I can't wait to hear more of what you can bring me on my drives.
Oh gosh, the pressure. But too bad I can't use you for the carpool lane. Double up and that would have been good,
and do it live. So with all these industries you've uncovered that are Canadian based, like, what would you think would be, again, I'm sure you can't number them, but what would you say that are the top industries that you would think that are going to get disrupted this year?
Oh, that's such a big question. It's really weird, because I don't think there's any industry that's not going to get hit. So, for example, fintech is going to continuously evolve, but it's really going to hit the insurance industry soon, because honestly, the whole thing and the notion with privacy and security and that level of transparency is going to really continue, and it's going to allow the consumers to keep asking questions, and companies need to be more responsive. So I think that is really going to continue to really evolve and take place, which honestly, the traditional banks are going to be kind of under fire with that, because they haven't made a lot of shifts. But the millennials, they're gravitating to the new forms and new ways of doing things. Like, I get surprised about how hard it is to, transfer money from the US to Canada. And even though we're around the corner from each other, it's really difficult when you're running a business. And then the exchange rates, you get really kind of hit hard. And then you find out there's cool tools like, TransferWise and other ones out there that have actually give you exchange rates that are on par, and they charge a small commission, and it's so clear of exactly how it works, and you can do this around the world. So I think you're going to really see that continue to evolve beyond belief, and it's the right time for it. Blockchain technology, it's going to just, this. We both got blockchain certified.
We're addicts of blockchain.
Yeah, like it's gonna, that technology, not the cryptocurrency stuff. I haven't bought into that yet, but the technology behind that with the smart contracts, the privacy, the security, like that is really going to hit every industry. We're seeing it, City of Toronto is using it, starting to use it. You're seeing the healthcare industry starting to use it with their patients' information. A lot of the banks are starting to use that. Like, there's just not one industry. Supply chain's another great one. Like, they're looking at it from an end-to-end perspective with all those things. Like, there's not one area that is not going to benefit from using the blockchain technology. And, yes, it's still early days and people are still trying to figure things out, but it really is just technology at the end of the day. So, we used to talk about, putting in, out of the box systems and solutions that were really heavy architecture, way back when. And then we talked about digital transformation, then started implementing all these cloud software. And now it really is going to be this blockchain technology. It's going to wrap around things. So I think you're going to see a lot of that really driving forward itself. Now you said 3. The third one, oh yeah, this is a good one. Company cultures. I think with the new different generations that are out there, the shift in the company's behavior needs to change because they need to be a lot more innovative and to actually hear the employees and like that they all have a stake in the ground, that they want their company to be around for a long time. So I think company cultures are going to have to shift and shape up a lot more differently. 1, to retain their knowledge and the people. 2, to keep them excited about the company that they belong in. And 3rd, to get new ideas from those that are actually doing different things. And I think it's always funny because, you know, there's TV shows like Undercover Boss. I don't know if you've seen that. I mean, it's been around for a long time. I don't even know.
Yeah, I love that show. It's such a great show.
And, you know, the boss, for our listeners out there, the boss, you know, the CEO goes undercover to become the janitor or to become the window cleaner or whatever it is, to actually experience a day in the life of what it's like to be an employee in the company. And he sees or she sees so many different perspectives, and then they go back and take that knowledge and findings to apply it to really further involve and innovate their own company culture and what they're doing and how they're handling customer inquiries. And I think a lot more of that stuff needs to be happening in there because there's so much things happening on the ground floor that people the head office doesn't see, and they're having all these expectations, but they're really disconnected. And that disconnect at this point in time with this whole digital world is going to cost them money because they're going to miss out on an opportunity for them to shift something, 2, not understand what their customers really want and what they need, and they're not going to be able to move with them. And 3, you're going to lose these employees that actually know how to do these systems and work these different things and have the relationships. So I think that's going to be a huge shift that's going to start to really become a lot more predominant out there.
For sure. I think that's such great advice and insight into those industries. And you know what I love about not only just your podcast, but your conversations that you have with your guests doesn't necessarily have to do with innovation from a tech perspective, because I think we focus a lot on, you know, how tech can disrupt our lives and innovate. And it's so tied to, you know, a device or, you know, some kind of innovation that, you know, is not related to the human relationships. And I love how that you integrate that into, you know, how we can reinvent our lifestyles. And, you know, as you mentioned earlier in this podcast that, you know, one of your guests relies on the advice and support of his wife. Like that has nothing to do with, you know, his phone, you know, keeping his calendar straight. But yeah, I just really love that. And I hope that we can bring more of that forward.
Oh, we will. We've got some really good ones that we've recorded already that are going to be coming out. And, you know, and I think also my interview skills have also started to improve quite a bit. I think I'm getting a lot more comfortable in front of a microphone. I'm easing up on being, you know, perfectionist. Like, you know, it's okay to make mistakes and let's just go with the flow. And honestly, and I'm actually starting to really find my own voice and just having a lot more fun with it. Where in the first few episodes, I think I have to, when I listen, I kind of cringe because I'm like, oh, I think I over edited it. And now I barely edit. I mean, Nathan, he's my editor. He's amazing. I think he just only really edits my guess, ums and ahs if they've done too many of them. But we really do very light, you know, touching up very little, and then he adds the music to it. So I think I've become a lot more relaxed behind all this.
Yeah, let's, you know, have life to be fun and enjoyable in everything that we do.
Yeah.
Such a great advice. Talking about all this disruption and innovation and growing, is there something that you're looking to interview another guest that you haven't, maybe an idol of ours in Canadian companies or innovation that you would love to bring onto your podcast that you haven't had yet?
Yeah, there's so many, but
it's time to do your pitch to try and get them on.
Yeah, no, seriously. Well, as pot just got legalized in Canada on what was it, Wednesday, October the 17th. I think I would love, if I could pick just one, and it could be, you know, at any level, I would love to get Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on the podcast. I would totally love to kind of pick his brain of where he thinks we're going, what's kind of happening, how we sit from a grand perspective. I think, yeah, I would love to get Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on it to really hear that vision of what they're thinking.
Let's see if we can make that happen. Yeah. Justin Trudeau, if you're listening, you have a spot here on Can Innovate.
That's awesome.
So as we go into, growing your podcast, as we were talking about, do you have any surprises up your sleeve? Because I know you. You're planning ahead. You're thinking out of the box. You're always looking for wonderful things to share with other people. Is there anything up your sleeve that we have a sneak peek to?
Well, I actually am actually now writing a book on networking and communication, because one of the things when I started teaching at George Brown and in talking to a lot of the actual different people out there that, people connect with me because they've listened to a podcast episode and they want to meet. And a lot of the struggles people are having is that they don't know how to network. And it's not that it's a dying art or whatever it is. It's just become a lot more of an evolved art, because you can network via social media. You can network from behind a computer. You don't have to be face to face to create connections. Like I have relationships around the world with people that I've never met. Sometimes you might do a Skype call to do face to face, but so yeah, it's really about networking and communication, but it's really about learning how to connect with people. So you're going to see some interesting aspects to it, because a typical management consultant that I am is I'm not just talking from a corporate development or, career development. I'm talking about how you can make friends, how you can meet new people that help you, do those, and tap some other new curiosities. So I'm going to be interviewing in the book. There's going to be aspects of advice of how to connect with people from a dating perspective and then from a business perspective. So you're going to get it from all different angles, because that's the idea of innovation, is you take it from different industries and see what all the different best practices are and then shape them. And of course, a lot of the guests on the podcast, a lot of their quotes and stuff like that, and in ideas that they've come will also be featured in there as well. So yeah, I'm about to try to become an author for the first time. So yeah, that's going to be the new big thing that's coming up.
Oh my goodness. It's a full plate going into the new year.
Yeah.
And I love it. I am so inspired and amazed by the work that you've done, and I wish you so much luck going into this next year. But before we close this off, I'm going to turn the tables like you do for your guests and ask the question where your favorite Canadian hotspot or hideaway is, so we can share that.
Honestly, I love going for a walk by the waterfront. I just think it's so beautiful. I just love seeing the boats. I love seeing the people. I love seeing the animals. I just love seeing the kids. I just love seeing everyone just getting out there and just connecting and hanging out, and it's a melting pot that's just right there. And it's just a beautiful view because everyone just feels more relaxed by the water. So yes, for me, my favorite Canadian hotspot is definitely by the waterfront.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Sapna, for having me interview you on the Can Innovate podcast. And I congratulate you again on your first year. You've done so well. And I'm so inspired and amazed by what you've done.
Well, like I said, it couldn't have been done without amazing friends and support system. I mean, you are brilliant beyond belief. And then Claire, that is the podcast manager, she makes magic happen. I have no idea how she does certain things. And Nathan always makes all of my guests sound like they are perfect. He keeps all my ums and ahs in there, but he makes everyone else sound shiny and bright. So yeah, it's thanks to you guys. And honestly, the listeners out there, and the guests, they're just so brilliant. I can't believe how open they are to share their feedback and keep it coming. I really, really love that. And always drop me an email, because it's just one of my best things in the morning where I start my day and I get an email from a listener. And yeah, so please keep them coming. Thanks for tuning in this week. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. And next week I got another really fun episode. You'll be surprised at the topics we're going to cover. But anyways, in the meantime, you don't have to wait till next week to connect with us. You can connect with us always on all the different social media links. You can even send us a review. That's another great place to give feedback. And of course, our new newsletter that has tons of new golden nuggets and of course, discounts galore. Actually, our tools section of the website also have it. And please feel free to nominate another innovator out there. And I can't wait to talk to you next week.